You're scrolling late at night, half asleep, when a single satellite image flashes across your screen, a perfectly circular, 400-foot wide concrete lid in the middle of the New Zealand wilderness, surrounded by nothing but sheep and mountains. No roads lead to it, no power lines, no explanation. Then another photo surfaces, a 5,000 square foot steel door buried under a Hawaiian rainforest, guarded by men who will go to prison before they speak. A third leak shows a convoy of blacked-out trucks unloading generators the size of houses into a hole in the Nevada desert that officially doesn't exist. These aren't movie sets. These are the front doors to the most expensive real estate on Earth. Real estate that isn't on Earth anymore. It's underneath it. And the people walking through those doors are the same ones who run the apps on your phone, the cloud that stores your photos, the algorithms that decide what you see, buy, and believe. Zuckerberg, Bezos, Altman, Thiel, Musk, Gates. They are not building bigger yachts. They are disappearing. And they are doing it right now in 2025 because every model they trust, every classified briefing they receive, and every private supercomputer they own is screaming the same. Countdown 2026 is when the surface world becomes optional for the people who matter. The rest of us won't send the invitation until tonight. This is not a drill. This is not Hollywood. This is the largest, most coordinated act of self-preservation in human history, and it is happening in total silence. While the news cycle argues about elections and interest rates, a parallel civilization is being constructed hundreds of feet beneath our feet, complete with its own air, water, power, food, medicine, schools, gyms, cinemas, and laws. The price of admission starts at 8 figures and goes up from there. The companies building them no longer advertise. They don't need to. Their order books are full for the next 4 years, and every slot is taken by someone whose net worth has at least 10 zeros. Atlas Survival Shelters in Texas reports that 2024 and 2025 combined have already surpassed their entire previous decade of revenue. Rising S Company in California has a 2-year backlog of 500,000 to 35 million units. Vivo's Europa One in Germany, once mocked as the Billionaire Titanic shelter, sold out its 76,000 square foot apartments faster than luxury condos in Manhattan. And those are just the public-facing companies. The real monsters, the ones with no websites, no brochures and no names, are booked solid by invitation only. Let's start with the man who literally wrote the book on connecting the planet, then decided the planet itself might not be worth staying on. Mark Zuckerberg's Kauai compound is no longer a ranch. It is a sovereign territory. The main house is 57,000 square feet above ground, but the real footprint is below. A bunker complex the size of a small shopping mall, poured with enough reinforced concrete to survive a near-direct missile strike. The doors are 2 feet thick, blast-proof and bank vault grade. The air filtration system is military spec NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical, capable of running sealed for 5 continuous years. There is an independent 400,000-gallon water reservoir, a hydroponic farm that can feed 200 people indefinitely, and a power plant built around multiple redundant geothermal wells and Tesla megapacks. Construction crews signed NDAs so strict that even their families don't know where they disappeared to for 18 months. Local pilots are banned from flying below 3,000 feet over the property. Drone footage is met with immediate signal jamming. Zuckerberg's own security director told a friend off record, "We're not building for hurricanes anymore. We're building for everything else." 4,000 miles away in the South Island of New Zealand, Peter Thiel finally got what he wanted after a decade of legal battles. His 477-acre lakeside retreat now includes a buried lodge that locals simply call the Tomb. It has its own runway capable of taking a Gulfstream G650 in complete darkness, an underground hangar, and a vertical farm lit by full-spectrum LEDs that mimic the exact Hawaiian sunlight Thiel grew up with. New Zealand became the apocalypse, darling of the ultra-rich because it is 1 miles from its nearest neighbor, self-sufficient in food and energy, and geologically stable. Since 2017, more than 4,000 ultra-high net worth individuals have quietly obtained residency there under the investor visa program. Real estate agents in Queenstown joke that the new currency is citizenship, not cash. Thiel didn't just buy land, he bought distance from whatever is coming. Bill Gates is playing a different game, dispersion. He doesn't want one golden bunker. He wants a network. Underground security areas have been confirmed beneath his 66,000 square foot Medina mansion in Washington, his 30,000 square foot Wellington estate in Florida, his massive ranch in Wyoming, and his agricultural holdings in North Dakota. Each facility is hardened to a different threat profile. The Wyoming one is EMP-proof and sits on its own aquifer. The Florida one is elevated against flooding and has submersible escape tunnels that open into the intercoastal waterway. The Washington one is said to have a direct fiber line to a hardened Microsoft data center that will keep Azure running for his family, even if the public internet dies. Gates has spent decades warning about pandemics, climate collapse and resource wars. His actions now match his words with chilling precision. Sam Altman, the public face of OpenAI, dropped a bomb in a 2023 podcast that barely registered at the time. When asked what he was personally doing to prepare for advanced AI going wrong, he laughed nervously and said, "I have guns, gold, potassium iodide, antibiotics, batteries, water, and a big plot of land I can fly to." He later clarified that he and several other AI CEOs have a mutual pact. If one of them believes AGI is about to escape control, they all head to predetermined hardened locations within hours. Altman's Northern California property now includes a bunker that contractors describe as a data center built for humans. It has liquid-cooled server racks for running private AI models offline, a surgical suite with a robotic arm, and a seed vault cooled to minus 80 degrees Celsius. He doesn't talk about it anymore. He doesn't need to. The construction permits speak for themselves. Jeff Bezos is thinking bigger than dirt. His $42 million Kourou sailing yacht grabs headlines, but his real escape plan is vertical and horizontal. His Texas, clock of the long now, mountain is hollowed out with facilities most people will never see. Blue Origin's New Shepard launch site in West Texas has underground crew quarters rated for months of autonomous operation. And then there are the rumors of Project Olympus, a constellation of private orbital habitats that could be occupied within 48 hours of launch. Bezos has said publicly that putting 1 trillion humans in space is the only way to preserve civilization long-term. What he hasn't said is that he intends to be among the first 1,000 when the surface becomes too hot, too radioactive, or simply too chaotic. Even the companies themselves are getting into the game. In January 2025, SAFE, Strategically Armored and Fortified Environments, announced ARI, a 400,000 square foot former limestone mine outside Washington, D.C., retrofitted into the most luxurious Doomsday community ever conceived. Membership tiers range from $65,000 per year for basic access to $5 million plus annual dues for the asylum level, which includes private apartments, dedicated medical staff, and guaranteed spots on the helicopter pad during intake. Every resident gets a custom go bag with night vision goggles, a satellite phone pre-programmed with emergency coordinates, and a biometric key that only works for them. The facility boasts a 100,000 volume physical library, a full-size basketball court, an indoor waterfall for psychological well-being, and a DNA bank in case species-level rebuilding becomes necessary. Construction photos leaked in March 2025 show workers installing a nuclear-powered oxygen generator the size of a city bus. Opening date, summer 2026. They are already oversubscribed by 300%. This isn't random eccentricity. This is pattern recognition at the highest level. The same men who saw the internet coming in the 1990s, who saw social media coming in the 2000s, who saw AI coming in the 2010s, are now seeing something they refuse to talk about in public. And they are voting with their wallets in a way that dwarfs every previous exodus in history. Total estimated spend on private doomsday infrastructure by the top 100 tech billionaires since 2020 is now north of 12 billion and climbing fast. That is more than the GDP of Iceland, and it's accelerating. So what exactly do they see that we don't? They see the convergence. Every major risk vector is spiking at once, and the timelines are lining up on 2026, 2028 with terrifying precision. Start with the sun. We are entering solar cycle 25's maximum, and the models from NASA and the European Space Agency are forecasting a Carrington-level event. Is solar flare powerful enough to knock out satellites, burn transformers, and plunge continents into multi-year blackouts, becoming increasingly likely between mid-2025 and late 2027? A direct hit would make Hurricane Katrina look like a power bump. The grid is still not hardened. Insurance companies quietly stopped offering full coverage for solar storms in 2024. Next, the climate dominoes. The Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, AMOC, the ocean conveyor belt that keeps Europe habitable, is now 30% weaker than a century ago and showing signs of imminent collapse. Papers published in Nature in early 2025 warned that shutdown could begin as early as 2026, plunging Britain and Scandinavia into Siberian winters while simultaneously triggering mega droughts across the Amazon and American Southwest. Plankton levels, which produce 70% of Earth's oxygen, have dropped 40% since 1950 and are accelerating downward. The elite have access to real-time satellite chlorophyll maps that haven't been released to the public yet. They know the oceans are dying faster than the IPCC's worst-case scenarios. Then there's the debt supernova. Global debt to GDP is now 360%. The US alone needs to roll over $9 trillion in treasuries in 2026 alone. Add interest. Rates triple what they were in 2020. Central banks are trapped. Raise rates and bankrupt governments and corporations, or slash rates and ignite hyperinflation. Either path ends with currency crisis. The billionaires are converting cash into steel, concrete, seeds, and farmland at a speed never recorded before. Add artificial intelligence. The race to AGI is no longer measured in years. It's measured in months. Leading labs now admit they have lost the ability to predict what their own models will do 6 months from now. Sam Altman, Ilya Sutskever, Dario Amodei, and Demis Hassabis have all either left their companies or dramatically changed their public tone in the last 18 months. When the people who built the technology start building bunkers specifically to escape the technology, that is the loudest possible alarm. And finally, the wild card nobody wants to say out loud, geopolitics. We have never had this many active flashpoints with nuclear powers simultaneously. Russia's new doctrine allows first use if regime survival is threatened. China has rehearsed blockade and invasion of Taiwan weekly since 2024. Iran and Israel are one miscalculation away from open war. North Korea is testing missiles that can reach any city in the United States. And underlying it all is the resource scramble: lithium, cobalt, rare earths, water, arable land. The math no longer works for 8 billion people at Western consumption levels. Someone has to go offline. The elite have decided it won't be them. History gives us the playbook, and it is brutal in its consistency. Before every major collapse, the ruling class quietly withdraws. Roman senators built fortified villas in the countryside as the empire frayed. French aristocrats fled to Switzerland months before the revolution. Jewish families who listened to the early whispers left Germany in 1933 and 1934, while those who waited paid with their lives. In 2007, the same financial elite who are now building bunkers sold their mortgage-backed securities and bought gold and farmland. They were early, but they were right. Today, the signal is louder, the preparations are deeper, and the timeline is shorter. Look at the numbers the elite actually watch. The Doomsday clock is at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been. The global challenges Foundation estimates a 1 in 10 chance of civilization ending. Catastrophe this century, but their private briefings to donors are reportedly far more pessimistic for the 2026-2030 window. Insurance giant Lloyd's of London has begun excluding solar flare and AI-related systemic risk from new policies. The fact that the people who calculate risk for a living are refusing to insure certain risks should terrify you more than any headline. The bunker companies themselves are the clearest leading indicator. When Rising S Company went from doing two $10 million installs per year to 20, the owner told a private gathering in Dallas, "We've never seen anything like this. These aren't preppers. These are the people who own the preppers." When asked what changed, he said simply 2026. So who wins when the hatches close? The people already inside, obviously. Zuckerberg will emerge, owning twice as much of whatever world is left because he will have preserved his capital while everyone else's evaporates. Thiel will control entire valleys in New Zealand that suddenly become the most valuable real estate on Earth. Gates will have the seeds, the water, the medicine, and the data. The rest of us will be fighting over canned beans and rainwater. But it doesn't have to be that way for you, not completely. You won't match their billions, but you can still steal their playbook. First, liquidity and mobility. Keep 12-24 months of expenses in cash or instantly accessible assets. Second, community. The lone wolf dies, the pack survives. Identify or build a small group you trust with your life. Third, skills over stuff. Learn to grow food, purify water, provide basic medical care, and defend what's yours. Fourth, location. Distance from major cities is the new wealth. Fifth, hard assets, gold, silver, productive farmland, tools, seeds, antibiotics. Sixth, information, maintain. Multiple offline ways to communicate and navigate when the networks go dark. And finally, mindset. The coming years will be the greatest test of human character in centuries. Panic loses, clarity wins. The underground empires are nearly finished. The concrete is curing. The seeds are vaulted. The air filters are spinning up. The invitations have been sent, and the guest list is closed. The people who built the modern world are walking away from it, not because they hate it, but because they believe it has an expiration date. And that date is written in 2026. They may be early. They have been early before. But they have never been wrong. The hatches are closing. The countdown is real. And the choice is yours. Watch from the surface as the sky changes, or start digging your own future today, whatever that looks like, before the last light above ground goes out.